Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 144, and you're watching two guys in recovery. George is recovering from the flu. I'm recovering from kidney stones. Well, no, I got these nice pills. My recovery is going just fine. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. And today's December 10th, 2014.
Okay, it's Wednesday, and a lot of you guys, like George, Kevin, you guys have dropped the ball. Sure, the Thanksgiving thing, we can understand you're not recording, but where have you been? Well, I've had what's called the Big C scare. That's where your doctor thinks you have cancer and doesn't want to let you know you might have cancer and just sends you for a bunch of tests. And George's his family have been suffering an illness. So I'll just give you a quick story about my Big C. I went to my doctor and he sent me to a urologist. And I said, when I go to the bathroom, bubbles come out and a little bit of blood. And the urologist, his little eyebrow goes up and says, it's probably nothing. We'll just send you for some tests. Don't worry about a thing. So they send me to a CAT scan machine, and they run me through. And my first run through, the little technician on the back says, that's not right. Go call the doctor. And so me stuck in the machine having a wonderful anxiety attack in this little claustrophobic area, looking at that little brim thing with a microphone, just waiting and waiting and waiting. They run a few more tests. They throw some blood dye in. But these technicians and doctors at the CAT scan facility are not allowed to tell you what they saw. So they said, Mr. Carlson, go home and your urologist will call you and tell you the results of this test. So I get back to the office, shaking a little. I have anxiety issues. And I get a phone call, again from the CAT scan facility saying, Mr. Carlson, we would like you to come back in for some more tests. Oh, joy, I would love to come back in for some more tests. So I probably ran all the red lights to get to the CAT scan facility, had more testing done. They do the same damn thing. Oh, that's not right. Call the doctor. Oh, we're going to need a second opinion. All that in earshot of me and send me back home. Luckily, I had another appointment with my general practitioner the same day. And I went in that afternoon and he goes, Kevin, you're all pale. I said, I'm not feeling very well, Mr. Doctor. He said, your blood pressure's really high. Yeah. Check my heart rate, too. My gosh, it's off the charts. Are you okay? I said, I had some testing done this morning, and you're going to have to call right now and get the results of that test, or I'm going to explode. Okay. So Dr. Hebner, my wonderful doctor who I've had for 20 years, gets on the phone, calls the CAT scan people, and says, I need the results from Kevin Carlson's CAT scan this morning. And he gets out his little piece of paper. He's writing down, flips the piece of paper. And I'm doing the old anxiety attack here. Hangs up. He goes, Kevin, you have kidney stones. Thank God. Now, a lot of people wouldn't thank God they had kidney stones. Right then, in that moment, I was thanking God on my hands and knees that I had kidney stones. Yes, the pain will be there, but they have pills for that. It's not the Big C. So I thank God for that. And that was my week last Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and my little explosion of ultrasound as they tried to take those out. Let's move on to George, who's also had a wonderful week. George, you have suffered what we call a virus. Your whole family. What's been going on down in Florida?
Well, Florida, it's the start of the tourist season. Kids come home from Thanksgiving and Christmas vacation, and they bring foreign germs, outside agitators, to upset our lovely bucolic community. And one of those outside agitators was the flu. And we had at least 40 people out of church on Sunday with the flu, including
you.
me.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to recover. If I walk more than 10 paces, I begin to sweat profusely and my voice gets even lower. But we're doing okay.
Well,
It's not the big C, Kevin. It's the small F I'm suffering
it's a
from.
small F. I got a postcard, George, from your church, and I thought we would let people know that if they're not busy, is it this Sunday coming up here?
Hmm.
There's a 20th anniversary at your church, and that they're going to install a brand new rector. Tell us about that.
20 years ago, my little congregation was founded in the wilds of Florida, in Citrus County, what they call the Nature Coast,
Hmm.
on the northwest part of the Florida Peninsula. And we've grown since then. We are now a big boy church. We about 400 people of members of the congregation. And this Sunday, I'm going to be formally instituted as their new rector. I've been there since September 1st, but now it's the first time the bishop can come out and wave his magical fingers over my head and make me the real priest in
So
charge.
you survived the 90-day probation. Now you can become the real priest. Well, congratulations. If you guys, anybody in Florida gets a chance, stop on down. It's called Shepherd of the Hills. And what town is it located in?
Lecanto.
Locanto. So that'll be fun. Now, while George and I were ill with our certain ailments, a lot of news has been happening. Mostly the results of Archbishop of Canterbury traveling the breadth of the world, visiting 38 provinces to discover what is wrong with the Anglican Communion. And he gave two, uh, one a written report and one kind of a House of Lords report that George and I want to talk about. And the predominant message we get out of this is sometime in the future the Anglican Communion may split, regardless of how hard we try to stop it. It may be beyond the breaking point. Now, if you watch this show, you understand that the host and co-host of Anglican Unscripted believe that that split has occurred many eons ago, and that his report, while accurate, may not be a time-dependent report. George, you and I have kind of indicated that the split occurred long ago.
Yes, if you ask, is the church broken? It's broken right now.
Yes.
So it's a good thing that the Archbishop of Canterbury realizes that. But, Kevin, we can't just say it broke because of this action or that action. This has been in the making for almost 2 or 3 generations.
Hmm.
We've said this before, but this Anglican Communion does not have transferability of clergy. Actions done in one place are not recognized as valid or real in another. And when you have a church like that, where you can be a baptized Christian in one place and not be recognized as such in another, that's not a united church. And that's been the position in varying forms over the past 30, 40 years. And it's actually taken the Gene Robinson consecration and all of the things that have flowed from that to basically make it so stark and so realistic that not even someone as removed from reality as the Archbishop of Canterbury can deny that things are terrible.
Well, they're terrible, they're broken, and we applaud Archbishop Justin Welby for doing the hard work, for traveling, meeting all those people, and talking to them. But I can't imagine who he talked to who said the church is not currently broken. Certainly, if you talk to Archbishop Oko, if you talk to the Archbishop of Kenya, any of these places would have said, we are currently in a broken state. You need to work on fixing it. And fixing it would involve, still to this day, holding the Episcopal Church accountable and holding the Anglican Church in Canada accountable.
Kevin, I'm going to say some harsh things, but money talks and race and culture talk.
That's true.
If you have a lot of money, people are more apt to listen to you. If you're the Episcopal Church, or to a lesser extent the Canadian Church, and you pay for things that go on in London and Canterbury, and you pay for the staffers that surround the Archbishop of the Anglican Consultative Council, your view is paramount. If you are of the same race or the same culture as the people in power, if your brain works along the same presuppositions, these things are repeated back to you. We have a communion whose whole power structure comes from one particular wing of one particular denomination, and that's the Episcopal Church. And people who basically draw their power and authority and almost their identity from that. And if you're poor, if you're black, if you don't speak English very well, you have no influence on the wider scheme of things, and it doesn't matter for the archbishop of a church of 3 million people. No. Your voice doesn't count as much as a parish in Lower Manhattan, or if you're a member of a society that gives money to your office.
And if George are wrong and I are wrong, Lambeth, prove it. Show us where Africa has just an equal voice that the Episcopal Church does. We also want to respond to a speech that Archbishop Welby gave to, was it the House of Lords? I'm trying to think.
House of Lords,
yeah, House
this
of
past
Lords.
Weekend.
He gave what I call the Holy Spirit was just a sparkler speech. He called the best way to go forward soft power, which really is an oxymoron in my book. But George, why would he call a solution to conflict a soft power?
Oh, he's just repeating one of the buzzwords of the foreign policy establishment. Mm-hmm. George Carey used to love to talk about soft power as well. It's not a particularly modern concept. It's been around. I remember reading about it 30, 40 years ago and as a student. It's the idea that non-governmental institutions, through their actions, can have as much effect on the world scene as state actors. In other words, Oxfam or Christian churches or name your pick, multinational corporations are players on the world scene, and they exercise influence on a soft level by virtue of ideas. Now, unfortunately, that just doesn't work. The reality of life is that authority flows through power, and people either give you power because they recognize that you hold it, or they're persuaded by your use of it, or you've got an army of 10,000 tanks on the border of West Germany, and you're going to not try to trip some wires to send the Russians over the line.
Well, that's the big stick issue. But when we're talking about soft power, I want to get back to what you said before about corruption. The only soft power that really works is corruption. Mm-hmm. There's no other way to put it. Soft power is where you're bribing your way through a society, where you're bribing your way through a crisis. It's not where you're standing up to the issues and having clear, concise discussions about a way forward or a way around a conflict. Soft power in of itself is a conflict.
Well, corruption is how the Episcopal Church and the Anglican Communion has basically worked over the past few generations. Mm-hmm. There's sort of the traditional corruption, which is money changing hands. Mm-hmm. Money is most recently was sent to the Tanzanian primates election, and the church flipped from being a pro-GAFCON to pro-Episcopal Church. And in talking to participants in that election, they're told how much money was given to them and the source of that money, and votes were bought and sold. That's old-fashioned corruption. And we see that sort of corruption in India, and we also see it in the United States from time to time of bishops and priests misusing their pastoral office for financial gain. We have another type of corruption, which is the corruption of power or personal influence. I can think of at least 3 bishops immediately off the top of my head who I knew changed their minds over the issue of homosexuality when they had either a child or a nephew or a niece announce to them that they were gay. Mm-hmm. And they went through the internal process of, I'm a good father, I love my child, I'll do anything for my child, therefore what I believe and what I've taught and what the church taught us for 2,000 years is wrong, because God must love my child and he wouldn't allow a bad thing to happen to me because I'm a good priest. Now, I'm making light of a difficult personal situation, But people who abuse their authority based upon personal opinions and personal influence, that's corruption as well. And finally, we have this, as I go back to an Anglican communion, where money talks and institutions talk. And the voices of those who are actually doing the work of winning people to Christ in this world are essentially taken for granted. They're going to continue to provide the income to keep these institutions going. But those people don't rely on the institutions anymore. The church, as an institution, is bankrupt.
Yeah.
I believe.
It's bankrupt. It's broken. Now, we do pray that the Archbishop of Canterbury realizes that the church is currently broken, and that he has before him the tools to fix it.
Kevin, I don't want to sort of say this all goes one way.
Yeah.
Now, you remember the AMIA scandals,
Sure.
and that was about corruption, and that was corruption from a conservative organization.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it does go both ways.
No, and politics. It's not just Africa where funny things happen. I remember watching the election of Charles Benison takes place in the Diocese of Pennsylvania. I believe it was 1994.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Benison was the most liberal candidate, and there were other less liberal candidates. And Forward in Faith talked to each of these candidates and said, "Will you give us alternative episcopal oversight?" And the centrists and conservatives said, "Well, you don't need it from me." Charles Benison said, "If you vote for me, I will allow you to have a flying bishop come in." And so Forward in Faith en masse voted for Charles Benison, making him the bishop of the Diocese of Pennsylvania. Well, the rest is history. Benison didn't keep his word. But that sort of corruption is not that unusual in the Episcopal Church. Mm-hmm. That's just one instance where I was an eyewitness to it. Now, until our church breaks out of this worldliness, this corruption of money and power and office and influence, I don't see the institution moving one iota forward.
No, and I think we have to repent of our ideal of soft power. That's not what we were put here for. That's not the nature of the gospel. And we want to recognize that the Archbishop of Canterbury is almost recognizing what the real problem is. And we want to pray that he does understand that the church is currently in a broken, corrupt state, and soft power is not going to help it. Full repentance from its leaders, from its laity, would be the first step to a long process of bringing the communion back to what God would have of it. Obviously, George and I are going to cut the show a little short today. He sounds as sick as can be. My pain pill is wearing off. I'm going to take some more here. And we will catch you at our next show, probably Friday. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. And you've been watching episode 143 of Anglican Unscripted.
144.